Hey Mets fans, my name's Vito Calisi. With me is my co-host Jonathan Barron, and we are the two hosts of a brand new, extremely exciting, official New York Mets podcast.
Yeah, Vito, the future of Flushing is bright, and we're here to tell you all about it. We're going to do so with nightly updates, recaps, player profiles, and awesome exclusive player interviews. What makes this podcast different is the content you just don't get anywhere else.
Like John said, we are going to be pushing out so much content on this show. Here on YouTube, we'll show you interviews, we'll do special weekly episodes, but every night there will be an audio-only version on our podcast stream on all major providers. That will be under Future of Flushing. You can find it everywhere. Every night, we're going to record an episode telling you everything that happened across all levels of the Mets player development system. And it'll be there for you when you wake up first thing in the morning.
And today we're coming in hot for you. An exclusive interview with the Eastern League pitcher of the month of May. And you might have heard of him. His name is Mike Vasil, right-handed pitcher for the Binghamton Rumble Ponies. Mike spoke all about his incredible May, both on the field, but Vito and I, we had a little fun with Mike as well.
Mike is such a fun guy to talk to. We first met Mike back in March at spring training, had a small conversation with him. You might have seen it on the scoreboard at Citi Field, but this is going to be our first interview we release officially as part of this podcast, and we are extremely excited Mike got to be that guy. So here it is. Enjoy our interview with Mike Vasil.
And we are now thrilled to be joined by the Eastern League pitcher of the month of May, coming to us live from First Energy Stadium in beautiful Reading, Pennsylvania. Of course, we're talking about Mike Vasil, right-handed pitcher for the Binghamton Rumble Ponies. Mike, thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been last time I saw you guys was spring training, and now I'm in Pennsylvania. It's summer weather's coming, so all is good, and thank you for having me on.
Of course. Well, you've accomplished quite a lot in the time since we last spoke to you, especially in the month of May. Just a brilliant month for you. 1 run allowed in 21 innings of work. What happened in May? I mean, those are dominant numbers.
Yeah, May was definitely a fun month. I think I got off to a really good start in Somerset, and I've kind of just rode the wave from there. I mean, it was really just talking to the pitching coach, AJ Sager, and about our plan of attack every game. It was really nothing crazy. It was strike one, throw your off speed for strikes, get ahead, be able to throw the heater inside, move it around, and obviously I get a great defense too to back me up. And at the end of the day, I was just throwing up zeros and having a lot of fun while doing it, and we're winning ball games. So it's definitely a good month.
You mentioned strike one. And that's been a theme of yours, not just in May, but all season long. You are currently sporting a walk rate under 4%. How have you had such incredible command of all your pitches so far this year?
Yeah, I think it's something that I've always known I was able to throw strikes at a pretty high clip. But I think for me, it's really there's a physical mechanical thing that I think plays into it of being in sync. But I also think it's really a mental. You have to almost trick yourself into believing that you have to throw all your pitches in the zone. Because I know a lot of guys, a lot of pitchers who can consistently do that in a bullpen or in practice and just hit spots. But I think in game, there's obviously a sense of adrenaline and, everything's going. It's moving a little bit faster. And I think for me, it's really just buying into throwing all my pitches in the zone, throwing everything for a strike, really believing in the guys behind me, believing in the pitch called, and just having confidence with everything I throw. And I think even, ahead or behind in the count, you got to really buy into that mindset. And it's helped me a lot, and it's paid off, and just keep it going from here.
What do you think you've been the most satisfied with in your development since the last time we saw you back in March?
I think there's a few things. I think, mechanically, last time we talked in March, I was working on some, lower half stuff, the way I load on the mound and get down. And I think that ultimately the things that I've kind of worked on in my lower half over the rubber have translated to better stuff over the plate and just better command. I think it's given my heater more life, especially at the top of the zone. I think it's given my curveball good sharp depth, especially breaking a little bit later. And I think ultimately everything I do over the rubber translates to how it's playing, when it gets close to the plate and batter's box and everything. And I think not only physically, but there's also been mental development as well. and how I approach a game, scouting reports, watching the games throughout the week, and being able to just like read hitters' swings. I think that's a huge thing that for me that's really like played a part of like how do you read a hitter when you're not playing, but also in game. How do you read a swing? How do you watch a hitter, how he reacts? And I think all that little stuff all plays a factor, and I think it's helped me develop mentally and physically.
Now, the last time we saw you, Brooklyn was the highest level you had reached. Obviously, now you're at Binghamton. You're dominating the Eastern League. What was that transition like for you, especially at first when you made your Eastern League debut, getting to a new level and facing a higher level of competition?
Yeah, definitely. I think I've said it to a couple people, but I think for me, going to the fall league played a huge role in like me being more comfortable. Maybe, obviously opening day, first start of the year, you're going to have jitters, but I think it's played a huge part in me just being more comfortable. Like I kind of realized that out the fall league, you don't have to do anything more or anything crazy. You really just have to stay true to who you are as a pitcher and yourself. And I think that's helped me a lot. And I think I'm still learning. Obviously, at this level, I've still learned more. The approaches at the plate, the eye that hitters have here is definitely, there's less chase. You got to beat guys in zone more, and I think I'm learning every week. But I think the fall league played a huge role in me being at least a little more comfortable from the start of maybe seeing some of those guys in Arizona, but also seeing guys from all over the place that had been at every level before. And I, when Kevin Howard called me and told me I was going out there, and then thinking about it now, looking back on it, it's played a huge role, I think, in my development as a person, as a player, and everything. So,
and John brought up last time we saw you, you were a Brooklyn Cyclone, and not just competition wise, but what's it like transitioning from playing in New York City to then go to Binghamton, work your way to Syracuse, and eventually make your way back to New York? Is that transition from a city back to a more suburban lifestyle like weird to adjust to?
Yeah, I think it's definitely different. I'm roommates with Dominic Hamill right now. We're roommates in Brooklyn too, and like we were talking about, there's no place like Coney Island. Like you can't recreate Coney Island to play in, especially minor league baseball. Like it's just different. And I think going from there to then Binghamton, where obviously like now during the summer we're drawing good crowds, weather's warming up and everything, but it's just different. Like heading to the park every day. You don't have subways flying over you and people all over the streets. It's a little more quiet, but you ultimately like keep in mind of you're trying to get back to New York, you're trying to get back to the city and what it means to play there and the energy there and everything. But I think you just got to be where your feet are and like love what you're doing and love the process of. Yeah, one time I was playing minor league baseball in Binghamton, New York, and I loved it, because I love what I'm doing, and my teammates are great, the coaching staff is awesome, everyone that works for the Rumble Ponies. So I think it's definitely an adjustment, but it's just another part of like the journey of moving through minor league baseball and on your way to the major leagues. So definitely an adjustment, but still love it.
You just mentioned that you are roommates with Dominic Hamill, another highly touted Mets pitching prospect. Back in spring training, we spoke about your relationship with Rowdy Jordan and how you were roommates with Rowdy, and you both told us funny stories about each other. Compare and contrast the two as roommates. What are the differences? What are the similarities?
All right, so obviously Dominic and I we're both pitchers, so we talk a little bit more about that side of the game. I actually have an update. So Rowdy ditched me as a roommate on this 2-week road stand because he claimed that I kept him awake. Now, Rowdy Jordan, let's just say he might have the smallest bladder in all of America because he gets up about 20 times a night to go to the bathroom. So I really don't know I don't know if it's me because I sleep like a bear every night. So Dominic and I have been perfectly fine always as roommates. So it might be Rowdy, it might be me. I'm not sure. But I would say as of right now, Rowdy and I don't have any bad blood, but I told him it hurt my feelings a little bit. So, he went and changed it behind the scenes. It's all right. We still love each other, but it happened. And obviously Dom's a tremendous roommate and we get along just fine and everyone sleeps great at night. So, there's a little bit of drama behind the scenes going on there.
Well, it's important to get your 8 hours of rest. So I'm glad to hear that
Exactly.
everything's working out
Exactly.
between you and Dom right now. It's good to hear.
Yeah, definitely.
Being in Binghamton has its, I think, extreme positives. One of them being, might be the best logo in minor league baseball. I mean, what's cooler than a pony with boxing gloves that's ready to just throw down?
You know, I think having the Rumble Ponies mascot, it's actually named Rowdy. So like that plays along great because the Rumble Ponies mascot's named Rowdy, which is funny. But I think it's the coolest mascot I've ever played baseball for, like, you know, with having as the team mascot and everything. And not to say that Sandy as the Cyclones mascot wasn't cool, but Rowdy's definitely pretty cool mascot.
You know, not to go back to Brooklyn one more time, but John and I went to a game a few weeks ago, and John became a gigantic fan of the King.
King Henry is
He's electric. He's electric.
One time last year, it was, you know, after the game, and we were just hanging out, and King Henry told us this tremendous story about everything he did during the 2020 COVID shutdown and how he got into great shape. And I've never met a man with more energy than King Henry. I mean, the guy he shows up every day and he does what he's supposed to do. It's awesome. He's electric.
You know what else was a lot of fun was watching you pitch in a Major League spring training game against the Braves, and a game that the Braves had a lot of major leaguers in that lineup. Just want to get your thoughts on what that experience was like for you, some of the takeaways you had facing the major league caliber hitters that you did that afternoon.
Yeah, you know, it was a very interesting time. You know, because I knew before it was announced, I knew a few days before that I was gonna go over to the other side of Florida and start that game, and it was gonna be a home game. So I figured, you know, like how the Mets spring training home games go, a lot of time it's very similar to what the starting lineup's going to be for the year. We're approaching the end of spring training. So I think for me, like, one of the biggest takeaways is there's almost a game beyond the game. So there's the game that I'm learning now and baseball and everything, but I got a small taste of, like, there is a next level that I didn't even realize was not possible, but I didn't even realize was going on. And I think that's what was really cool for me. And it was a tremendous experience just to see how those guys operate, how professional everyone is, and they're getting their work in. And, you know, I also think it brought like another level of focus for me, you know, because it wasn't more of, oh no, like I'm facing the Atlanta Braves today. It was more like, this is an awesome experience. Like, why not go give my A stuff today? Like, why not go out there and see how my stuff plays and what I need to work on or improve or where I'm at right now? And that's kind of how I treated it. And I think I took away a lot of things from it, and it was really, really awesome.
Yeah, the changeup was working that day. You recorded a few strikeouts with that change, one against Matt Olson. Was there any particular Brave in the lineup that day that you kind of had to like pinch yourself and be like, wow, I'm on the mound and he's in the batter's box and we're doing this right now?
So I will say, like, obviously once you get into game mode, you're kind of locked in. But I stepped on the mound, and then the announcer came over, and he was like, now batting, like, Ronald Acuna. And I was in my head for like a split second. I almost lost focus. I was like, Ronald Acuna's getting in the box. And then I was like, all right, like, come on, like, it's time to compete. But like for that split second, it was almost like, this is cool. You know, like, this is cool. Like, I've watched this guy on TV, and now we're going head to head. And then, I mean, really, they have a tremendous lineup. So every guy was like, all right, now I'm facing him. But, you know, I think the way how the Mets staff up there and everything got me comfortable to being in that setting, and the way they kind of prepped me a little bit for that start, I felt comfortable. I felt ready to go, and that's what was huge. But yeah, I would say for that split second when the guy came on and said Ronald Acuna's name, I was a little like, wow, this is going to happen. And I almost hit him with the first pitch, not on purpose at all. It literally just got away from me. And in my head, I was also like, that is just okay. You know, like, all right, get that away and then get right back in the strike zone. But yeah, no, awesome experience.
You know, talking about major leaguers, before we spoke to you at spring training, we spoke to somebody that you worked with quite a bit last year. Don't want to name names, but that person told us that he compared you to Garrett Cole when we were asking him for some information on you and like what we could talk to you about. How do you feel about the comparison? And is there any other player that you would compare yourself to more?
Well, one, obviously it's a huge compliment because even though I'm really not trying to emulate maybe him mechanically or anything, like I've always watched him. Like even going back to his days in Houston, like I just remember everything about his arsenal, everything about like the way he commanded the zone, the way he pitched, the way his fastball played. Like I was like, wow, like this guy, there's a lot, you know, bigger build, right-handed pitcher, starter, workhorse. Like you can go, you know, down the line with things. And I think, you know, from him, you also see that like he's a power pitcher, but he's a pitcher. Like he just doesn't throw. He hits spots. He commands his zone. And I think, obviously, I'm flattered to hear that. But it's I've also watched him a lot. You know, and in terms of other guys, I've said it before. Like I'm really just a fan of the game. So there's a lot of pitchers out there that I watch. You know, like obviously everyone watches Ohtani and the way he pitches, and the Scherzers, the Verlanders. You know, one when I was also growing up was like, I remember just thinking Lance Lynn was so cool because like he just threw like 3 different types of fastballs 80% of the time, and he's on such a roll. And you know, he's also, I think I have some mechanical similarities between him and I, and I just think, you know, obviously Cole is a huge one for me because that is really the guy that I watch a lot, but also that I'm a fan of the game. I'm a fan of pitching. I like watching everybody, and yeah, so there's no one single guy, but I would say Cole's probably the biggest.
Another thing that we were told that you like to watch, or that you like to make people watch, is after we spoke to you, we talked to Grant Hartwig. We asked him about just putting together a 5-man team, play some hoops, and he casually brought up that you force guys to watch your high school basketball highlights.
Yeah, so, all right, well, first off, Grant also forces me to watch his high school football highlights.
He didn't tell us that part. He left that part out.
So I don't know, you know, any great Detroit Lions players that he grew up watching, but I swear
Joey Harrington.
He swears he could play for the Lions right now. But yeah, I have this one video of me doing a up and under playoff game in high school that I frequently pull up and have guys watch, not because of anything. I just want to show guys that I could hoop a little bit back in the day. You know, I could hit the 3, play a little D, even though I was more of a zone guy than a man-to-man, but that's all right. And I could distribute the ball. That's another thing. I feel like I was pretty good at giving the ball out to people, and yeah, I could hoop a little bit.
Well, speaking of amateur athletics, your Virginia Cavaliers have a date with the Blue Devils starting this Friday in the College World Series Super Regional. How locked in have you been to the college baseball tournament, and how are you feeling about the Cavaliers' chances?
I've been following those guys. I mean, I knew they drew a tougher regional with East Carolina, because East Carolina and then they've gone back and forth many years before, and I was pumped to see them just go 3-0, just clean sweep. And then now they got a great test again in Duke. Mm-hmm. You know, Duke beat them in the series in the regular season, obviously another ACC team, and they face each other every year. So I'm excited. I'm going to be locked in. I'll probably be wearing some orange and blue or something like that. Maybe I'll wear orange and blue Mets sweatshirt to bring even more positive vibes. I don't know. But I'm happy for those guys. I still know a handful of guys on the team. They're awesome people. I hope they go to Omaha again. One of the best experiences I've ever had in playing baseball is going to the College World Series, and I wish those guys nothing but the best.
A couple more questions for you here, Mike, before we wrap up. There's a few guys on the major league level that are making an impact for the Mets. Obviously, Brett Baty, Mark Vientos, Francisco Alvarez. What's it been like from your vantage point to watch young guys come up here, make an impact, and how does that kind of help you in terms of the motivation and your thought process of, you know, one day making it to the big leagues yourself?
Yeah, you know, it's been awesome. You know, like I've got to like hang out with Brett and like talk to Alvy a handful of times, and I consider those guys friends and everything, and they're great. I think the first thing that stands out about those guys is, even before I really started to have a relationship with them, is they're great people. You know, they're great people. I never played with any of them, but I know they're great teammates, and they work hard, and I think that's been huge for all the guys down here in Binghamton, or whether it's Syracuse, Brooklyn, whatever, is, you know, we kind of like see those guys as like one of us. You know, it's like one of us going up, and we pull for them, we root for them, because they're just tremendous people. And I think it obviously, it motivates a lot of us to play harder and get your work in. And they've obviously set a standard of how to do it, because when you see those guys work, they come in every day of what I've seen and they get their work in. And it's been awesome. It's been awesome to watch them, and we got the games on all the time. Anytime they get up to the plate, we're rooting for them, and it's definitely motivation for sure.
So, Mike, you are a Boston guy.
Yeah.
So on your Twitter, obviously you love Tom Brady. Do you follow TB12? Like, do you take any of Tom Brady's mannerisms? Do you take any of his strategy? Are you on the TB12 method?
Well, I don't do his diet. I can't do that.
Who can? That's a little much.
I can't do the diet. I have the book. I have multiple of his books. Are they next to my nightstand at my childhood home and in my room? Probably. I'm not going to say yes or no, but yeah, the books are probably there. Do I have a Tom Brady Buccaneers jersey and a Patriots jersey? Yeah, I do. I think that the best thing with Brady is, like, what I see in him is just like a role model for like athletes and just players of all different types of sports. Like, it's a guy that was overlooked. It's a guy that some people doubted, and I just see it, some similarities going back to some things that have happened in my career. And I've always loved him before anything's happened, just because he won so many Super Bowls, and I'm a huge Patriots fan. But, just the way he approaches the game, the way he's a leader, the way, he competes. There's so many things that I think I've taken away from just watching him as a fan, but also an athlete, that I try and apply to, the way I approach games, the way I try and compete, and really how it's all about the team. It's all about winning. That's really what matters. It's obviously everyone wants to have personal success, but when you care about the team more and you care about what happens on the field, a lot of the other stuff takes care of itself. And that's really what I want to do at the end of the day. Is I want to win as a team as much as possible. And I think that's what, he kind of obviously reflects in his game and in his career.
If you had to make a Mount Rushmore of Boston, we'll call it Mount Bossmore, who would your 4 guys be? And that doesn't have to be people from Boston. It can be, but it could just be, who do you think represents the city best?
Well, one, Tom Brady. Yes, obviously. The next one, I'm going to have to go David Ortiz. It's got, I got to go Ortiz. The next one, I wasn't alive, but I know my dad's a huge fan, is Larry Bird. I think Bird's got to be up there for a third one. And the thing is like, I feel like I have to include the Bruins somehow. Even I don't watch a ton of hockey, but I'd have to probably go Zdeno Chara. I mean, that guy, Big Z, was a huge part of Boston Bruins hockey, and he played for a long time, and people loved him. So you could go anywhere with those. I think Brady's in all of them, but you could really go anywhere. But those are my 4: Brady, Ortiz, Larry Bird, and Zdeno Chara.
Well, Mike, that's perfect. Dude, thank you so much for taking the time today. You were the first interview we did when we started this at spring training. So thanks so much for joining us for this episode, Mike.
Of course. I really appreciate it. It's always fun to talk to you guys, and hope we can just keep this thing going moving forward.
Well, we hope you enjoyed the interview, but I do need to interject a little opinion here, Vito. And you know that this was kind of bothering me. I think it's a generational thing that Mike put Zdeno Chara on that Boston Mount Rushmore. Come on, Mike. It's got to be Ray Bourque if you're going with a Bruins defenseman, but we could talk Bruins history at another time, Mike.
If we're going to be generational, I think it should have been Phil Esposito.
I know you do. You've mentioned that a few times to me. I'm going to tell you again you're wrong, but I'm impressed that you're dropping the Esposito name on me. I'm not going to complain about that.
Mom's favorite Ranger of all time. I've heard about him my whole life.
Well, hopefully maybe one day Mike Vassell will be on a Mount Rushmore of Mets pitchers, and he could be a mom's favorite Met pitcher of all time. You never know.
He's got some stiff competition. I mean, my mom does love the good doctor.
Of course, yeah. As everyone knows, a very pitching-rich history with the New York Mets.
Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Please make sure to go subscribe to Future of Flushing on all major podcast providers. Give us a rate, give us a listen, subscribe to that podcast, because when you wake up first thing in the morning, you go to your podcast feed, you know what you want to see? Minor League Baseball updates. Who wouldn't want that? So thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you tomorrow morning on that Future of Flushing audio stream.